Today we're taking a look at the Massachusetts again, another ranked game. I know I just kind of did a video on this, but today I really want to focus on secondaries and getting the most you can out of them. I'm running the same build, so it's not a full secondary BFT IFHE build. It's a somewhat reasonable build, including superintendent and fire prevention. That's just to try and tank a little bit longer, because after all, you are a battleship, and that's what you want to do. This game's kind of crazy for the amount of secondary damage I do. I think it's probably the most I've ever done in a Massachusetts before, at least in ranked, for sure in ranked. I don't know about random battles, but I just kind of want to go over what I'm doing differently, because I was going to try something a little bit different this game compared to what I usually do, which is, you usually just go in and click on things with secondaries, and that's that, right? But there's a little more nuance than that when it comes to secondaries and how to use them effectively. So first off, you need to know what your secondaries are strong. What's their strength? What are they strong at? And Massachusetts secondaries are incredibly accurate. That's their strength. They don't pen a lot. They only pen 21 millimeters, 26 if you take IFHE, but that really isn't worth it. In this game, that would only allow me to pen the Cleveland, and that's it. Which isn't really worth it, because taking fire prevention helps you stay alive a lot easier. So, because we know we're not going to full pen anyone's hull of the ship, we're only going to full pen with our superstructures or full pen with our secondaries on superstructures, right? So we need to keep that in mind and plan accordingly. So I don't want to get close to any ships, actually. I want to stay around 10 kilometers. 8 is the closest, really, I want to be to enemy ships. And the farthest I want to be away from enemy ships is 11.3, because that's where my secondaries start. The reason for this is secondaries aim right at the center of the ship, at the citadel. So at close range, the secondaries are actually just going to be hitting the belt armor or the bow, if the ship's bow on, and doing 0 damage. So that's why we want to stay farther away with Massachusetts specifically. Massachusetts, Georgia, Ohio, all of those want to stay around that 11.3 kilometer to 8 kilometer range. That's the sweet spot for these secondaries. So as you can see, his health bar is just ticking away slowly, from fire, but our secondaries are, as you can see, landing on the superstructure right now. And that's what we want. Now, if you have a Tirpitz or a Bismarck or a German battleship, and the secondaries full pen 32 millimeters, and they get over that armor threshold of battleship extremities, then you want to be closer, because German secondaries aren't very accurate, so they're not very good at long range. They're actually better sub 8 kilometers. You want to get up close into people's faces. That's when they're at their best. So that's kind of the difference there. So here I'm just going to show you how I like to use Massachusetts, right? So I'm just backing up here, trying to absorb their push here. You see how tanky this ship can be. Unfortunately, my friendly Massachusetts actually disconnected. So this game was way harder than it needed to be. I was thinking, oh great, we got a sweet crossfire here that they got to worry about, but no, they just basically have to worry about me. That friendly Massachusetts is basically just a 60,000 HP pool tank at this point, and that's it. At least he's angled, so he's gonna live for a little bit. But yeah, you see me just kind of backing away, trying to keep them outside of that 8 kilometer range. And sometimes you have to do this. Sometimes you get caught bow in, and you can't turn out. When you're broadside, obviously the Massachusetts can be vulnerable. The Citadel's pretty low in the water, but you still don't want to be turning out flat broadside at 7 kilometers. You're more than likely to take critical damage. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was target selection. I'm sure that's something that people think about with their main guns, but With secondaries, it's actually almost more important who you select or who you put your secondaries on. For example, in Massachusetts, I will always select my secondaries on a destroyer if it's in range. Every time. Doesn't matter. Because a little bit of chip damage, even like 200 or 300 damage per secondary shell hit, adds up massively on a destroyer, where it doesn't do as much to a battleship or a cruiser. Then after that, I will choose battleships over cruisers, because cruisers have very small amounts of superstructure, and your secondaries won't full pen that in Massachusetts. So I will select a battleship over a cruiser. And if somebody's really close to me, I'm only going to select them as a target over a long-range target if I can full pen their ship's hull. So destroyers are basically it. Here I'm pushing up because we just need to kill this Massachusetts. Sometimes you need to get in closer secondary range, and that's fine. But if I have the option here, I should select the battleship that's on the ACAP. I'm not right now because I'm a little tunnel visioned on this Massachusetts, but you can see how the angle of the secondaries is starting to dip a little bit too low here, even at 6.5 kilometers. We're getting a lot of hits on his belt. A lot of them are going into the water because the secondaries aim right at the waterline. So I'm trying to stay angled to everything, trying to stay alive from this CV. And it's not easy because aircraft carriers clap you, as we're about to see. The other thing is, if you have two equal targets that are equally as good to shoot at, the next thing I'm going to go over is fires. Massachusetts, Georgia, Ohio secondaries are pretty good at landing fires because you get so many hits. And there we go, we burned down a Massachusetts right there. And so, as you're going to see at the end of this, we do massive damage with fires and, well, just raw damage. But if a target already has a fire on it, I'll switch to the other good target within my secondary range. Or I should. I didn't really do it this game, but I should. Because even the chance to get a fire is worth it to switch. Unless you really have to take someone out, but once you've lit a fire on an enemy battleship, that spot can no longer be lit on fire anymore, so your fire chance is just going to waste. And so you want to switch over to a fresh target and get a fire there. It's much like a cruiser would cycle fires on different enemy ships. Yeah, and that's kind of the main things, is you really want to be thinking about what you're targeting with your secondaries. And in this game, I could have targeted this Lenin a little bit earlier than the Massachusetts that I was so focused on, but it was okay. It was an okay time, and really just kind of wanted to focus this game on how much secondary damage you can get out of these ships, and that's why you want to play them in ranked. The ability to engage multiple targets at once or put extra pressure on one target all at once is vital to winning ranked games as a battleship, because sometimes you need to be able to deal damage to two targets. Sometimes you just shot and a destroyer pops up and you need to help your friendly destroyer deal with that, and so secondaries are very strong for that. Despite the Lenin being a tankier ship and probably having a little better dispersion than the Massachusetts, I still like the Massachusetts over the Lenin just because of the secondaries. They're that strong. As you can see, aircraft carriers are nice and balanced. Dealing, this Lexington's basically solo killed my entire health pool here at this point. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to punish things that go broadside, right? Even though he's 6 kilometers away, all we get are overpens. So that's another reason I like to have secondaries, is just because you get unlucky sometimes, and I find I get unlucky a lot in battleships. So having secondaries as a backup way to deal a lot of damage is quite nice. There you go. Finally get one Citadel, but still not enough. And This game actually, this game will actually come down to this aircraft carrier and my little destroyer friend who's basically dead. So we get an AA defense expert, but the CV just is that strong that he can kill us. And there we go, another torpedo protection hit. You know, I got pretty unlucky against this Lexington with my main guns, but my secondaries did a pretty solid job against him. We're going to fast forward through this ending here because not much happens. Our DD just kind of hides, which is good. I'd actually told him to go hide because that's how we win the game. But unfortunately, aircraft carriers are something that you got to deal with every once in a while, even in ranked, and they're so strong. Even when you catch them out that close, you can lose in a brawling battleship because the carriers are just that strong. Yeah, so just a quick little game here. That's all I really wanted to say, is just secondary ships can be strong. You just got to think about what you're shooting at with your secondaries as well. It's more to manage, but I believe you guys can do it. And yeah, it's crazy how strong they are. You know, 216k game in ranked is no joke. A nice win there. DD did a great job there to clutch it out. As you can see, this was in the 10-6 bracket. 441 secondary hits, 35 planes shot down, and the secondary damage, as you can see coming up here, we actually do 73,000 damage, raw secondary damage this game, and another 40,000 with fires. You see we didn't shoot a single salvo of HE. Yeah, pretty solid game. Just appreciate you guys watching, and have a great weekend.